How do you do, my friends and you? Welcome to Relic. My name is Matthew. Today we are doing a topic unlike many of the others, being the topic of the very well-known site called Reddit. One of its many subreddits is called r/EntitledParents. And oh boy, do I have some problems with it. This all started a while back where I would just watch a guy just read some things on it, and while I believed some of them because I was younger and more naive, I began to be a lot more skeptical of them as they started becoming more and more ridiculous. What do I mean by this? In fact, what even is the Entitled Parents subreddit even about? Well, basically, let me just say that most of them are by somebody talking about either their aunt, uncle, step-parent, or somebody else's mom, dad, aunt, etc. They go on to talk about how they were just doing something in their day-to-day life and some random entitled parent, oh dear, shows up and just starts being a real buzzkill and being a big old meanie. So basically, they start to cause a ruckus, and it all ends with the person that is writing the thing. They say some clips, and eventually sends a person back to where they came from, being, I don't know, Midwest. So you're either going, that seems pretty annoying to go through. Do they really all play out like that? Or, that is pretty odd. But yeah, pretty much everybody on the thing has what I feel like is a hero's complex. Because they're like, I just kicked that no-good Nick out of your fine establishment, miss. Oh, thank you, dear hero. And just for that, I will reward you with something. And then the rated R scene. Anyway, yeah. I just have a problem with most of these because they're like a scene of Darman where one of them is obviously the villain and the other is obviously the hero. Where the person writing, if they are telling the truth, they are most definitely not the good guy in the situation. Like, I read one, and it was like, okay, I am 20M, and the people that are in this story are me, 20M, entitled child, 11M, and entitled parent, 30s F. I am currently in an art college, and my class went to a park with a pretty decently sized pond with a lot of trees, and we were told to bring our sketchbooks so we could all draw the nature and split off from each other. I was just sitting under a tree on the bench looking at all the scenery when the entitled child came up to me and went, Hey, are you drawing something? I bet I could do way better. I've been doing art forever, and I've been looking for a new book to do it in. Could I have yours? And when this child says this, I just go, You're just a child. What possible drawings could you make when you've only been alive for a mere 11 years? Then he started running his mouth again. How do you know how old I am? Because I am a primordial being, one who will kill you if you say one more annoying thing. I bet you don't even draw good. I mean, come on. And that's when I took out my pencil and drew the Mona Lisa down to its finest detail in 20 seconds. Mommy! He cried, and that's when the mother came, aka entitled parent. She started telling me something about how I should go seek help from a therapist, and that is when I pulled my trump card. You're just saying that because your husband left you, and you are not getting paid the child support. And you know what you should have treated your child better, or else maybe he wouldn't be a big piece of. And then I grabbed him by the shoulders. The entitled parent and her little entitled voice said, I'm calling the police. I wouldn't do that if I were you. Hands off my baby. Then I said, okay. And then I drop kicked the little entitled child all the way to space, breaking the sound barrier. She started running off, which is when I teleported to her and snapped her neck. So yeah, guys, if you like the story, then you can comment what you would have done in that situation. God dang, that took so much time. Holy. But yeah, most of them sound like that. And of course, I embellished, if you couldn't already tell. But I will summarize some that I will read right now to see your guys' opinion on them, and then I'll give my final thoughts. Okay, so I know that I have anger issues. My parents, whenever I did anything wrong, would just get mad at me. They'd yell, slam things, and get my butt whooped. Then a sibling would go do them down the line, and they would just brush it off. One time, I forged my dad's signature when I forgot to give a report card to him on time, so I did it, and I thought I did a pretty good job at it. Cue the whooping and a 2 week grounding and telling me I was no more than the common criminal. But then my 10-year younger sibling did that on his report card, which was literally just his name, but in bad fourth grader handwriting. The man looked at him and said, "Don't do that again," and went back to his computer. I was 19 at the time and called him out on it and talked about how when I did it, he went all out on me. I kid you not, told me to shut up and mind my own business. I remember being 5 and hungry, and I was told not to make food because I was too young and they worked in night shifts. Both of my parents. Then 2 years later, my brother was born, and I made him food for 13 years. My grandmother spoon fed him till he was 8. It's not my job to raise my younger brother. Now, first off, I have a few things to say about this, and it's that first, when you're the oldest by that many years, I am very sorry to tell you this, but you are in fact the guinea pig for the parents on how to parent. So when you were surprised to see the fact that your brothers by almost a decade have a different childhood than you, it's just like, come on, man. I have siblings and we all got treated differently in our childhoods. The second thing that I have to say is about that first story. The way he phrased it when he says it shows he still has pride in it, in my opinion. He's literally talking about how his forgery was better than his brother's. That doesn't help. It's probably one of the reasons why he went harder on you, along with the fact that you're the oldest. So when you go up to him and basically tell him he's gone soft, of course he's gonna get mad. And the last thing. Admittedly, it's not entirely the job of the eldest sibling to raise their younger siblings. However, you still have to be there for them, and once again, the way he phrased it, it sounded like his brother got a pretty alright childhood along with him and got attention from their parents. Alrighty then, on to the next story. My parents are a teacher, 43F, and an engineer, 43M, and they get paid a lot for their jobs. The issue is that I have been having issues with making money and asking for money from them for the last 2 to 3 years. First off, I have issues with asking for money from them and for my allowance and try to avoid it as much as possible. The issue began when my father started to question me every week about what I was going to do with the money, and I would have to tell him exactly what I would spend it on. Same for when I asked for money. I would have to explain to him for like 10 whole minutes. This is like an almost every other day occurrence. He would usually just forget to ever pay me, and I would have to tap into my savings, and he would supposedly pay me back. He paid me back only like 25% of the time. The summer was pretty calm because I had just earned some money and spent it on makeup, clothes, etc. The thing is, I have almost no savings anymore, and I have to go through the process of asking him for stuff again. I have really important expenses with the makeup and my dyed hair. I don't understand why they're doing this, and my boyfriend's mother is the one that pays for most of the things I eat. All of this, and my brother gets to be paid for on most of the things he wants and gets to eat out so much. Alright, so starting off, there is this saying that my mom's aunt told her what she told me, and it is that the shy go hungry. If you couldn't already tell, it means that if you don't ask, you shall not receive. So when you know your father needs to be reminded of him giving you things, you shouldn't be surprised when he doesn't give you things when you didn't ask him for it. I can get where he's coming from somewhat, because of the fact that you're in your teenage years and money at that age is meaningless, and you don't really touch on the fact that he gives you the money. Like, you talk about how getting money is hard, but a 10-minute talk to get him to give you money when you don't have a job is literally free money, pretty much. If he doesn't give you the money, then the very simple solution to that issue is to ask him again. Like, come on. And after you spend your money, you have to start asking him again. And to be honest, you are not losing a whole lot. All you have to do to get something is ask and give reasoning. So I don't get why you're making such a big deal about this. And when your only expenses are making yourself look cool, it's like, bruh. And when your parents of your boyfriend already pay for the food you eat. Why do you need yours too? And on the last bit, you talked about how your brother gets all the stuff paid for. You talked about how earlier your dad didn't question you when you were younger, only between the past 2 to 3 years. I read in the comments when she replied to a commenter about how her brother was only 11. Along with that, because he is in that age, that means that you are introduced to a plethora of things you need to enjoy to find a career. So yeah, now you know some of why I hate the subreddit so much, and I say some because I've only scratched the surface. I have a few other points to make, so let's get into those. One of the top posts on the subreddit was a satirical post, kind of like this video, which I found while researching, quote unquote, for this. And it mentioned one point that I also agree with, and it is that most, if not all, the posts talk about how they apparently have an anxiety disorder. Even if they have an anxiety disorder, and I'm sorry if you do have one, just because you have it doesn't make you not guilty of anything you do. They're like, okay, so I hit someone with my car, and I have an anxiety issue, so I just drove off. It's like, man, it's a hit and run. I mean, come on. I joke about color blindness occasionally, because I am, ironically, but solely. And the people in these stories will pick fights and then just start breaking down crying. It's like, bruh, you're probably wondering where the hero complex is when I haven't mentioned it in a while. Basically, the subreddit is in two sections, the random entitled person and the family entitled person. The random entitled person stories have the hero complex, and the family ones have the I have anxiety stories. But I've already covered the hero complex, so let's discuss the anxiety stories more. Most of these people in their stories will pick fights with their family members, and then, as I said earlier, will break down crying, and the person that was being a big ol' meanie to the main character, I mean, the person telling the story will get banished for eternity, like this is the beginning of Thor. There is this term called Occam's razor, where the most obvious answer is probably the correct one. An example would basically be if you coughed, you probably have a cold, and not a random virus that spawned from Mars when you went on a field trip to NASA one time. So when the person is telling the story about how they were at their house and their family was holding a gathering there, and they were watching a violent anime with their cousin, and the cousin's sister wanted to watch, and the aunt made them show the sister the anime, which was not appropriate, and they left later, taking the title and breaking it, which is given the storyteller by the very respected grandfather of the family, and the aunt and the sister of the cousin were banished from the family. The readers can't help but doubt if you're making this up or you're telling a version of the story where the storyteller came out on top instead of not being punished or anything. If you haven't figured it out, I am already heavily summarizing a story I read a while back. And something that the people saying these things should be afraid of is if someone on the subreddit ends up like me, someone who just can't believe these stories anymore. I gave them my best shot, but I just cannot listen to them without disregarding it entirely. This part of Reddit is on borrowed time, and when people just start also having enough with this awful piece of the internet. Okay, so the ending is not where it just was. This is the ending. But just a final point that doesn't really get edited for now. But just want to say this as of recording. There was a thing in the comments that I saw on a lot of stories while researching. They just be like, "Oh, run away," off of anything. It's like, my guy. Literally, all they said was, "Don't burn down the house." Like, come on. Yeah, all right, bye, guys.